Are you a guy that has to have the TV volume on an even number?
Yes.
Me too. Drives me insane.
Okay, here's the thing, though. It's an even number or
Increments
21.
of 15? Oh.
15, I could also see. It's even numbers or 21. I don't know why.
Everybody has that number that their brain is comfortable with. Yeah, I'm an even number on the TV volume or in the car. It drives me completely insane.
I guess it's now that I'm thinking of it, it's even numbers basically until 20, and then I go increments of 5 if I can.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't leave the volume on 24 or 28.
If you've ever left the volume on 37, seek help.
You don't think about anything in life. I'm envious of you that you just walk through and don't second guess anything. Completely insane.
Those people need to be studied. Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. Trevor Sikkema, Connor Rogers here with you. Another position ranking episode here on the channel. Today we're talking cornerbacks, specifically outside cornerbacks from me. Connor's going to throw a little bit more in there. Might have some slot guys, but in continuing the conversation that we've had in previous episodes, I'm trying to contextualize my rankings a little bit more. We're trying to sort of do that a little bit more here on this channel. So to be fair to you guys, and to be frank, I only had enough time this week to watch 16 outside corners, so I ranked those guys there. Connor said has mostly outside corners, maybe a couple of slot surprises in there that we'll talk about here on the show, but ultimately we are going to give you our top 12s of the cornerbacks that we have watched. Connor, we were going back and forth a little bit earlier this week. It is a lengthy process to watch cornerbacks because there's no cutting corners. Like sometimes when you're watching edge rushers, maybe running backs, wide receivers, you can watch some of their key plays, some of the best and worst highlights and lowlights for them, and you can kind of get a good idea of who they are as a prospect. For corners, you have to watch every single snap. And you sent me a picture earlier today, getting an oil change somewhere, grinding the tape. Not even letting auto troubles get in the way of making sure that you hit your threshold. So the people appreciate it, buddy.
Man, it is a grind corner week. It's really the equivalent. It's the defensive version of offensive line where you're going to watch a lot of plays that mean absolutely nothing. Honestly,
yes.
You just got to. Now, we are lucky. We've said this before, using Ultimate. There's certain things you can filter down to if you want to see them. But you're right. When you're just starting out watching a corner, nuts and bolts, let's watch a game. I like to really pick games especially for this group where I could see matchups or how they play, because it's what the NFL is going to be like, right? There's no hiding from it. This is definitely. I watched 13 for perspective. I've probably seen 15 or 16 corners in this class, but one of them that I watch, to me, is more of a safety. We'll get to that show when we get to that show. A couple guys, actually, that I'd seen a lot of, too, went back to school. We had even a couple guys from summer scouting that were key players in summer scouting for this group go back to school as well. So, and like you said, we'll probably try to do another show on this where we break our final rankings down to nickels, outside corners, defensive backs as a whole. You can get really, really in the weeds of the roles they're going to play, and it's just so important when explaining that in scouting.
Yeah, I'm focusing on outside corners, and I have two separate
A lot of
rankings.
mine are.
Yeah, I figured that would be the case, and that's often the case. I do have mine split up into man coverage outside corners and zone coverage outside corners, and there's a little bit of, overlap when it comes to the position. A lot of corners, but, kind of have to be able to play both. But there are some specializations with some of these guys. So I do have separate rankings within the full ranking that I have for outside corners that we'll use just to make it easier to follow along so you guys know. But that's what I'll be doing throughout the podcast. Nickel defender, I know that there's a handful of corners that I didn't get to who I know are probably just slot guys at the NFL level. I think we'll probably have some safeties that we watch that we'll probably think are slot defenders, nickel defenders as well. So that might be another bonus ranking episode that we might get to at some point, maybe after we do safeties, because we've got a good feel on this class overall. But we're going to do our top 12s today. Who's the one guy who you did do a full scouting report on that you didn't get to in the top 12? I feel like we might as well just shout him out. I'll shout out the 3 or the 4 that I had that aren't in my top 12. Who's the one that you had that didn't make your top 12?
Denzel Burke, which is, he was 13. Was he close to that for you?
He's 15. So out of the 16 that I watched, he was 15 for me.
I'm going to be honest. This is tough to say. I wouldn't be surprised when I get to 20 or 25 corners by the week of the draft if Burke is not holding down the 13th spot. Like, this was not the year I had hoped for from him, especially when you watch specifically him in man coverage and him in one-on-one situations. And, I'll keep it brief with him because I want to get into the top 12, but he was ranked for me over summer. I think he was, 7th or 6th, somewhere around there. We had a lot of breakout players, obviously, this year. He was someone that it felt like he had a pretty good bounce back year in 2023, and then he opted to go back to school, which I thought he would have been a day 2-ish kind of pick if he declared. And I was like, yeah, go back to school. Maybe you can get yourself into round 1 or the top 40, top 50. And he just didn't have that kind of year, especially on a team that's filled with incredible draft prospects across the board. It's not that Burke's not a draftable player. That's not fair at all. I just thought Trevor, my big takeaway from his film this year was he didn't look confident in man coverage. He was struggling to mirror. He was kind of guessing when to break on routes a lot, and it just, for as great as a team they were, in some of the bigger matchups, I saw some struggles from Burke, who's not naturally the biggest, toolsiest corner.
And that's the thing, is that I see him similarly. He came in at 15 for me. I think he's a pretty natural, smooth mover. 4 years of starting experience. He's been starting since he was a true freshman at Ohio State. So you like that about him.
For a freshman.
I just didn't see a difference-making NFL trait. You talk about him not having as much confidence in man coverage. I think that's because he knows that if he does not anticipate correctly the movement of the wide receivers, especially when it comes to vertical routes that are up the sideline, he just doesn't really have that twitchiness or explosiveness to him. He's not the longest corner out there. So I think he's fine. I just didn't see a difference-making trait from him, whether it was ball skills, whether it was explosiveness, whether it was his physicality or something like that. So I felt like he's somebody who's probably a rotational defensive back, maybe a spot starter for you, but ultimately probably somebody who's just a lower end of the depth chart player. The 4 other guys that I watched, so Burke was 15 for me. I had Quincy Riley at 16. I had Tommy Hill at 14, who you have talked about. We watched him over summer. You were a little bit higher than I was on him during the summer, but it's a tough year for him. Like he had a foot injury that
was really significant.
Yeah, it was. I think it was plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
So it was something where every step you take, if you have that injury, like that's pain that you're dealing with. And I honestly wonder if he was still dealing with it when he was at the Senior Bowl, because there were a couple of reps.
Yeah.
The one that was sort of made famous on social media, Jaden Higgins just absolutely blowing by him, making Jaden Higgins look like he was Randy Moss out there. And you go, damn, okay, like that was a really tough rep from him. There are other reps from Tommy Hill that I go, dude, you are more athletic than that. He's got a track background to him. Matt Rule, who hasn't always told the truth when it comes to boasting up some of his players. He praises athleticism, though. He said he's one of the most athletic guys on the team. And so I wonder if the dude was still playing hurt, and I wonder if he's a safety. You and I talked about that before the show, and you said that you feel like he might be a safety.
Yeah, so he's another guy I watch and didn't count in my 13 corners because I'm gonna evaluate him as a safety right now. After the combine, I'm gonna talk to some people and kind of see where teams are having him. I wouldn't be shocked if teams are like, no, we think he's gonna play corner. I love his ability at safety. I think he's big. I think he's strong. When you brought up the Matt Rule thing, I actually think Hill is explosive enough. I don't think he's fast. You can be explosive in the short area, but not necessarily have long speed. So I think that, that's an issue. He's got some ball skills. He loves to come downhill and tackle. So I looked at a guy that I thought could transition to be a safety, but I won't have him on today's rankings because of that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big dude, 67th percentile in height, 97th in weight. What'd you say?
I think he's 200. Let me see what the Senior Bowl listed him
at.
I thought yeah, right? He's 210. Yeah.
So that's 97th percentile for a corner. So if you wanted to move him to safety, I mean, the weight profile is there. He's got big hands. He's got long arms, 33 and 5/8 inch arms. That's 95th percentile for the position.
Yeah.
So you kind of say to yourself, like, yeah, if you can play corner, you're a pretty rare build for a cornerback. I just don't know if he can play corner. So I had him just outside of the rankings there. And then the last guy right before my top 12, O'Donnell Fortune, the cornerback from South Carolina, who I think is a really nice, cover 3 type of an off coverage corner. He's got some good length to him, got some good fluidity. Skinny build. Sometimes I trust how sticky, or I doubt how sticky he could be in coverage, but him being at 13, honestly, like I still like him as a player. So that sort of goes to, after doing this exercise, even just looking at 16 outside corners, this is a pretty solid group.
I thought so too. I was like, oh, did we kind of just overlook this group because it doesn't have all the flash throughout?
This cornerback group is deeper than I thought it was going to be. And look, did you watch either of the Kansas guys?
I have seen Kobe.
Okay.
But I didn't rank him today. I still need to finish the eval. I know he was at Shrine. He was pretty loud at Shrine.
He was awesome at Shrine. Yeah. And I just wanted to say, as the show begins, I didn't get to watch Kobe or Mello Dotson before we recorded.
I haven't seen Dotson.
I just ran out of time doing it. So I know you guys are going to yell at me because Kobe's going to be an absolute fan favorite because of how he played when he was at the Shrine Bowl and how he's just got absolute Kobe Bryant, full pun and name intended, Mamba mentality every time that he walks onto the field. I mean, he is such a fun football player, but I just didn't quite have time to get to his final email.
Well,
so what?
Didn't he weigh 170?
He's $170. Yeah, he's $170.
The average weight for corner is 193. Just for context.
He is first percentile in weight. Yes.
So yeah, if you like him a lot, which is fine. I'm not saying you do. I'm saying population. That's an outlier bet, which is fine. But just know, massive outlier bet.
And you know what's also funny? So he's got long arms. He's actually got above 50th percentile arm length for the position.
Hates food.
Couldn't be me, brother. Couldn't be me.
Man, it does show discipline, which is a plus.
Come on over to my house, brother. We'll get you up to 185, 190 in no time. But with Kobe, he's somebody who, this is another recent example. He's got long arms. Kansas lists him at 6'1". So you could tell yourself oh, all right, yeah, he's lean, but he's got length to him too. Brother, he's 5'10".
Yeah.
He showed up at 5'10" at the Shrine Bowl.
Yeah.
6'1", my ass.
Yeah, it's tough. That's a big difference. And it is funny that we still are doing this because these guys are going to go to the combine and measure.
Now he has the arm again, he has the length. The length is there. It's 66th percentile arm length, so he still has the length. It's just funny to me that he's listed 6'1". He shows up 5'10".
Yeah.
That's a Tinder profile.
I was just gonna say, and is that a dating profile?
Yeah, I guess I can't say. Is Tinder a thing anymore? I don't even know. I've been out of the game too long.
Dude, come on. Me and you are so past our. I'm sure our audience has plenty of thoughts on the dating app game.
Yeah, hey, yeah. What apps are we using now? What apps are we using now, people?
Comment below.
Actually, don't. Our fiancés might hate that we actually asked that to even pull the group. All right, Let's just do the first two. Let's do 12 and 11 because I'm OCD, and then we could do the increments of 5.
No, that's a good. I'm the same way. It would really bother me if we did 12 to 9.
Yeah, let's do 12 through 7, and I'm in here screaming internally.
Are you a guy that has to have the TV volume on an even number?
Yes,
me too. Okay. Drives me insane.
Okay, here's the thing though, it's an even number or
increments 21. Of 15. Oh. I'm okay with 15. And
15 I could also see, doing 15. But honestly, normally, it's even numbers or 21. I don't know why. 21 is one of my favorite numbers. So
everybody has that number that their brain is comfortable with. Yeah, I'm an even number on the TV volume or in the car. It drives me completely insane. I'm trying to think what else I have some really weird. I feel like a lot of people are like this, but when you're OCD, it's
I guess it's now that I'm thinking of it, it's even numbers basically until 20, and then I go increments of 5 if I can. Then I'll go 25
I'm the same
or 30
way.
or 35.
Yeah, I'm the same
40.
way. I don't leave the volume on 24 or 28.
If you've ever left the volume on 37,
you are You don't think about anything in life.
Seek help.
I'm envious of you that you
Seek
just
help.
walk through and don't second guess anything. Completely insane.
Those people need to be studied.
Yeah, they do.
If you've ever left the TV on 37, on 43, on 40, I'll even say 46. I'll call it an even number here. You're sick. You're sick of that.
You need to talk to somebody.
And comment below because we'd love to hear from you and start a war on where you leave the dial. Some people are odd numbered people too. Odd even numbered.
That's fine though, as long as you have a process and you stick to it. But don't be on here like, oh, the TV volume today is 11, but yesterday it was 4. That's just we can't have that in a household.
It's complete anarchy, and if it continues to spread, society will cease to exist as we know it. Okay, so 12 and 11, who do you got here?
So you already brought this player up. 12 for me was Quincy Riley. Obviously.
God, I want to like him, dude.
So he is very polarizing because the 2023 film is nothing like the 2024 film. He had an ankle injury this year, and he just wasn't as good. He wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I thought, especially in man coverage in 2023, he was near phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. Lockdown. Didn't really allow much of anything. So I kind of met and landed in the middle because he's another guy. He's got track background, really good speed.
Yeah.
But he's not physically imposing.
No.
He's under 6 feet tall. He's 190 pounds. So I kind of landed in the middle where I'm like, man, that 2023 season was really good. I think he's a 24-year-old, or I think he'll be 24 during training camp, whatever. I landed right in the middle.
He's a sixth-year dude. Yeah.
Yeah, because he played 3 years, right, at Middle Tennessee. Am I thinking?
Yes.
Yep, make sure I have the background right.
Tennessee.
And he didn't start until the 3rd year. He had 5 interceptions. Then he transferred up to Louisville, played all 3 years at Louisville. 3 interceptions, 2 interceptions, 2 interceptions over the last 3 years. So he always found the ball. But yeah, the ankle injury this year, he just wasn't the same guy as 2023. But he's somebody to me that, like, I'm curious. I think he has the athleticism to play the slot. Mm-hmm. But even though he's been largely an outside corner, and he's got good speed, I believe in the player that I saw in 2023 to maybe be like a 3rd corner on a team. So I liked him, but it definitely takes some seasoning where, like, if you just turn on this year, you're like, and not the biggest guy. But yeah, I thought the whole package put together solid. And then 11 for me was somebody we talked a lot about over the summer. The one Virginia Tech corner that did declare, Dorian Strong.
Yeah, so I'll get to Dorian in a second. Riley is interesting because he's a twitched up dude. There's actually not a ton of corners in this class that I would say like have twitch, that have these twitched up movements. And Riley is absolutely one of them. Now, he comes in a smaller package. He's just over 5'10", 192 pounds. So he's 29th percentile in height, 47th percentile in weight. And then when you get to the arm length, about 50th percentile, hand size, smaller hands, 5th percentile there. But he's got the ball skills and ball production, so that's not that big of a deal. You mentioned the track background. Yeah, it's extensive. So he's from Columbia, South Carolina. And in South Carolina, he won the 4A 100-meter and 200-meter dashes and was an all-state player. He was also the South Carolina Track Player of the Year as a senior in 2019. So this dude knows how to move. And Connor, that's what's so frustrating to me, is that I know he's got the movement background. Last year was better than this year, there's no doubt about it, but like, it didn't translate to stickiness.
Yeah.
Certainly this year it didn't. Like, it just, even in man coverage, it just didn't translate to that stickiness in coverage. He wasn't able to stick with guys.
He's out-muscled.
Huh?
He gets out-muscled a lot, like off the line.
So getting to your point about him being a slot, I think he moves great for a slot player because having that twitched up muscle to be able to defend against any sort of two-way go, left or right, whatever it is, that's what you want from the slot.
Without a doubt.
But the problem is he can't defend the run.
No.
He's too small. He doesn't have the strength. And I remember talking about, this was Brett Coleman a while ago, and we were talking about slot defenders. I think it was maybe me, you, EJ, and Brett, we were all talking about this at one point. Shout out to Bootleg Football Channel, by the way, if you guys don't follow those guys.
We have a crossover group DM.
We do.
That's
yes.
pretty good.
And I think that it literally I think I set that up because I was like, hey, do you guys want to come on the channel and do a mock draft? And they're like, yeah, sure. And now we just talk about prospects all the time. So I think we were talking about Cooper DeJean specifically. And it was this thought process of you don't mind Cooper DeJean as a slot player. Because when you are in the slot, not only do you have to cover left and right two ways, you are closer to the ball.
Right.
You are closer to where the ball, you have to fit the run. You are closer to where the run fit is. And I don't think Quincy can fit the run. There are a couple of reps. God bless him. I'm not trying to go after him. I'm really not. Where he will give it his all as a tackle. And he will get obliterated by the ball.
He's not a big guy.
And that worries me because that makes me go, okay, well, now you have to be just an outside corner type of a player, and I want him to be a man coverage type of corner, but he lacks those instincts to be sticky. I don't want him as a zone coverage corner because there were way too many times that wide receivers were able to attack his blind spots or beat out his leverage, whether it was inside or out or whatever it was, and I go, okay, you don't have the feel that you need to when you're in off coverage, so I think he is just a smaller press man coverage type of a corner, but he's got to get stronger, and he's got to stick in the hip pocket of receivers better than he does right now. So he's a player that I really wanted to like, but I just had too many things that gave me the but with Quincy Riley.
I'm totally with you. I mean, I think his spring weight was also in the 180s, so he's a smaller player that you love the athlete. And going back to it, like, everything you're saying, I agree with the athletically, you think the transition to the slot makes sense, but just for context for everyone, this is somebody that played almost 2,500 snaps at outside corner. He played 127 in the slot. Like, he's been an outside corner for 6 years, primarily.
Yeah, right.
So that is still a transition for him as well. Even if athletically you think he could do it, the run game adjustment is massive, as you highlighted. So I liked him for what he is. Hopefully a depth corner that you can develop and get a little bit of play strength, a higher caliber than what it is now. But I ended up having him at a 12 out of the 13 corners I had really watched and ranked.
Okay, so we talked about him. You got Dorian Strong at 11, correct, you said?
Yes.
I have Dorian Strong at 10, so we're basically right there in the same category. But even with him being CB10 as an outside corner, I still gave him a third-round grade. Like, I still think that Dorian Strong can play. I think there is potential for him to be a CB2 at the NFL level, or if not, a really good CB3 that you feel good about if one of your corners ends up going down. He is somebody who he was just over 6 feet tall when he showed up at the Senior Bowl. He is light as well, man. He is skinny. 179 pounds. That's just 7th percentile. I thought his arms would be a little bit longer, but they're not. They're just 31 1/8. That's 38th percentile. I think when you watch him, you think the arms are going to be a little bit longer, but he also has a track background, 100-meter dash, 400-meter dash, also played wide receiver in high school. Fun fact, his father, Donovan, a retired IFBB pro bodybuilder, now a pro bodybuilding coach. So, Dorian, why are you 180 pounds?
Talk about when you really don't want to listen to your parents.
Like, calories in, calories out. It's a simple formula.
Talking about an IFBB pro. Like, we're not talking about somebody that just lifts weights for fun. Crazy.
So, he's been a starter for a long time at Virginia Tech, really since he was a true freshman. But what'd you think about Dorian Strong? I had him at number 10. You had him at 11. What'd you think?
Yeah, you like the height, a lot of experience outside. I thought he has good recovery speed. Like when somebody, that's what really stood out to me is when he does get beat, he has the makeup speed to play, to get back to the hip pocket. Love his competitive nature, disciplined eyes, very aware. We talked about this over summer. 2023 just didn't really see a lot of action. Teams didn't go after him. I mean, he was targeted 33 times. He allowed 9 catches. So I think even the 2023, he's another guy who was better than this year. I don't think the difference was on the caliber of Quincy Riley's, where it's like one year he looked like a top 75 pick, and the next year it was not a great year. I think Dorian was completely fine this year. I thought he had a chance think I had written this down too. I want to save my summer rankings. Yeah, over summer, I had him 7th. So, I mean, he had a really big 2023 season. A lot of experience playing press. Looks good doing it in single coverage. He's got speed. Like you said, the arms aren't long, but I think he understands technique and timing. It's a lot of that is just all the play experience. You mentioned he's been starting since 2021. I know he missed about half the season in 2022 due to injury, but like he's played a lot of football. He's more of a slender guy. And I brought up that recovery speed. You love that it stands out, but there are a lot of instances where you see it and it's like, oh, like he got beat initially. And some of that can be the play strength, right? That can be, and I don't think he's somebody personally that is ever going to be 195 pounds. If I can, like, he's just realistically a slender kind of guy, but yeah, strong. I agree with you. The ceiling for him, like if he was your number 2 corner starting on the outside by year 3 of his NFL career, I wouldn't be shocked at all because he's put out that kind of tape at the college level for multiple seasons now.
Yeah, I think that we could get to that point. This is a player that I did like a lot. I think that there's some strength concerns just from his more slender build that, I think that I agree with you. I think he's got the technique to play press man coverage. I like him more when he is in that off coverage cover 3 type of deployment.
Use his eyes.
He's really smart, man.
Yeah, he is.
He's used that experience very well, and that recovery speed also turns into speed to trigger downhill. His foot quickness was some of my favorite of any of the guys that I watched. And so really to me, if you are a primarily zone heavy coverage team, like this is absolutely a guy who could become a CB2 for you. He's got good ball production. He's got 7 interceptions throughout his career. He's got a forced incompletion percentage above 13% in all 5 years that he has played college ball, and it was above 20% in 2022 and 2023. He's a good football player, man. I just think that he's got some strength limitations that make you hesitate about putting him in press man coverage too often. And even though I think that he's got good recovery speed and good foot quickness, the total, like, okay, this wide receiver's running a 9 route. If he can get off the line of scrimmage pretty quickly, I think there's a little bit of just top speed concern, again, when you put him in those man coverage situations, but not nearly. You don't see that really at all when you give him that cover 3 freedom to be able to keep his eyes on the quarterback and the ball and sort of play the wide receiver with more of a spacing and technique type of approach. So this is somebody who I was not sure how I was going to feel about Dorian Strong. There's not a lot of love for him, I feel like, out there. I wondered if I would just be much lower on him, but like this is a dude who could legitimately play at the NFL level.
He plays a pretty boring brand of cornerback, and I think that's
the
why.
Best kind.
I agree. He's gotten really no love, and we liked him over the summer, and then nobody talked about him this year, and nobody's really talking about him now, and it's because he's boring. But that's, like you said, Trevor, that's fine, especially in a zone scheme. Like, I don't really need you to be dripping with traits and ball skills all the time if you're fast enough and a reliable cover player with your eye discipline and awareness and instincts, and that's what he has.
Did you watch? So I guess I'll say my 12 and 11. Yeah.
So do not go one further. Just 12 to 11.
Well, I already did because we did Dorian Strong, and he's a 10.
Oh, the week's ruined.
It's off the rails. I'm turning the volume of this podcast to 33. So I have Zy Alexander from LSU at number 12. Do you have him?
No, I didn't get to watch him in this cycle.
Okay, all right. I am I'll break him down in a second. And then I got Nohl Williams from Cal at 11.
I've seen a little bit of him. I didn't finish, but when you have that kind of ball production in a season, like I had to kind of dive in and see what kind of player you are.
Yeah, he's strong as hell too. I'll get to him in a second. Since you didn't watch those two guys, I'll be decently quick with sort of my synopsis here. Zy Alexander is a player who I didn't really know a lot about when I was coming into the season. I had seen his name on LSU's depth chart, but really did not know a ton about him. The more that I looked into him, he was a player who we talked about as a stock up type of a guy.
I was just going to say, he was on a stock up show. I remember
that. We shouted him out. I can't remember which category I had him in, but I might have even had him in the category of like, hey, this guy could be a potential top 50 pick when it's all said and done, because the way he plays corner is very easy to watch. Now, he Was at the Shrine Bowl, measured in 6'1", 79th percentile. He's got 31 and third and 3/8 inch arms. It's 48th percentile. Pretty big hands, above 9-inch hands, 9 1/4 inch hands. Is 60th percentile for the position, and 192 pounds. That's 47th percentile. So he checks a lot of the boxes there. And he's a redshirt senior coming from LSU. He's got a very interesting background to him. 0-star player in his recruiting class in 2022. Played quarterback, wide receiver, and safety when he was in high school. He was an all-around athlete from Laurelville, Louisiana. He also played baseball, where he was the leadoff hitter and outfielder for a state title team as a sophomore. So he was a true all-around athlete. The problem is that he broke his collarbone his senior year of high school, and Southeastern Louisiana was the only school to stick with him and give him a scholarship offer to play football. So he went to SEL, played 6 games, started 4 as a true freshman in 2020 for that adjusted COVID-19 season. And then he was an FCS All-American the next year. He was an all-conference player for 2 straight years for him. Transfers over to LSU. He starts 8 games at LSU in 2023, then tears his ACL that 2023 season. So he was able to work back to form, start again this past season. And I think there's a lot of things that he brings to the table that you like. I watched him and I initially thought, man, this is a guy who's a press man corner, because he's very comfortable. He's very confident when he's asked to play press man coverage. The issue is that amongst a lot of the things he does well, very high ball production, good interceptions, good forced incompletion percentage throughout his career, he is kind of limited athletically. The feet are a little bit slow. The top speed is sort of an issue for you. So I like him better when you can play him in those off-coverage assignments. It allows him to use his savviness a little bit more, use that bump and run coverage sort of technique to him, where he's waiting for the receivers to get into their route a little bit before really getting up into their hip pockets and sticking with them. So the overall athleticism and top speed is an issue for me. I think the footwork can be even cleaned up a little bit more, despite that being a little bit slower. But he's got so much experience, 14 career interceptions, loves to hand fight. He's just one of those guys that's never really panicking in any situation, which I always gravitate towards. He anticipates movements really well. Just a smart cornerback that I've got a little bit of worry with how fast he is. And so I'm excited to see him at the Combine. I'd love to be pleasantly surprised, because if I do, there's so much that this guy brings to the table. And then Nohl Williams, just to keep it rolling, and I can continue with his press man coverage type of a corner, in my opinion, because at 6'1", 195 pounds, I mean, he is built like that, and his strength is his biggest calling card. His negatives are sort of the same thing as Zay Alexander's. I don't think he's the fastest dude in the world, despite having a little bit of a track background to him. If he's in those press man coverage alignments and those wide receivers get off the line of scrimmage clean, or if he, mistimes or misplaces his punches, he just doesn't anticipate it super well, and they get even with him, they're normally taken off, and Nohl has a tough time recovering and really getting up to speed with those receivers, and it only gets more difficult at the NFL level. But he has been a consistent starter for 5 straight seasons. It was first at UNLV for 3 years, and then it was at Cal. But the thing that I love about him, dude wants to be physical. The dude's got really high run defense grades, great tackler. He'll be physical with you from the moment the ball is snapped, the first punt. He is always looking to dictate contact. So if you are a physical press man coverage type of a team, you might worry a little bit about the athleticism, but you are going to love how this dude plays at the line of scrimmage and throughout the route, just being a bully out there. So there's a lot that he brings to the table in terms of strength for a position that does not always have a lot of players who boast that about them. So very comfortable through contact, very comfortable in those press man single coverage situations. So that's why I like Nohl Williams here.
Somebody I'm looking forward to watching for sure, where you talking about speed with those guys. We are absolutely insane for doing this show the week before the Combine.
It's true. That's true. That's bad on us. That's bad on us.
And hopefully we're not off on a lot of these guys' athleticism. That is part of the job. But man, can you filter a lot with Combine testing for corner? Like specifically edge pass rusher, corner, and there's different drills for each that matter the most. We've gone through them a lot on this show. But yeah, right. You got to be like, it's really simple, but you got to be able to run to play corner at the NFL level. And there's just not a lot of exceptions, man. When you look at the guys that are not typically fast, it's just no matter how good they were in college, it's really, really vital. All right, should I get to 10 through 6?
10 through 6. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Number 10 for me is Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky.
Okay.
Who I feel like people really like him, and this just kind of shows the depth of the corner class. Number 9, and we've hinted at this a lot, is Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame.
Okay.
That one is going to be massive medically for him with the season-ending hip injury. Number 8 for me is Darien Porter from Iowa State, who we're going to have a pretty long convo about him. He might be like the mystery of this draft, if I'm being honest with you. He really might be. And then number 7, Trey Amos from Ole Miss.
Okay.
Another guy that, has played a lot of college football, has had a pretty good start to his process as well. And then, so he was 7. Number 6 for me, I think is my favorite player in this entire group. And it's like very Jamari Caldwell-ish, where it doesn't mean I think he's the best. I just love watching him.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it Azareye'h?
No, I have him higher.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think Azareye'h is phenomenal.
Okay. All right. Who is it?
6 for me is Jacob Parrish from Kansas State.
Oh, dude, I like Jacob Parrish. So I don't have him in this show because I think he's a slot. But
this was the one guy.
Okay.
When you said you were doing outside corners, that I was like, maybe one other, but this was the one guy where I was like, Trevor's not going to have him today. And I agree with you. He's small. I think he's 5'9".
He's small. Yeah.
But man, you want to talk about. I'll start with him, and then you could read your 10 to 6, and we'll get back to them because you're not going to have him in your 10 to 6.
Right.
Like, he is a gnat in every single way. I think he's the stickiest player in this entire group. It's just that when you're that size, there are going to be limitations, of course.
Can he tackle?
I think good enough, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right,
I'll tell you right now, in this class, there are a lot of bad tacklers at corner.
Yeah.
Like guys that I don't know if they can. It's, especially in this group I just read, I saw tackling problems with both Hairston and Morrison consistently.
Yeah.
And they're guys that, could be top 60 picks when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
But honestly, even Amos and Porter have their own problems. It's the whole group.
Yeah.
So Parrish, considering he's about 5, now he's pretty dense though. He's 5'9", but he looks like he's a hair under 200. I think he's like a real 195. Yeah, he has good pound for pound strength, but this is 2023, grabbed 4 interceptions. This year he only grabbed 1, but he is quick, agile. When he opens up his hips to run down the field, like there's no delay, there's no transition. It's all natural, and the acceleration as soon as he opens up his hips or flips his hips it's phenomenal. He's so sticky in coverage. He finds the football in both man and zone. And you know what? While he's played a lot of outside corner, because when you're typically one of the best players, like, hey, you're going to be outside a lot. He has played 150 snaps in the slot over the last 2 seasons. So you get to watch him in the slot enough to know, I think he's going to be an awesome slot corner. I just like my synopsis for him is he's a short, feisty cover corner that should make a successful full-time transition to playing the slot at the NFL level. I love the player. I think he's really, really good. I love the athleticism, highly competitive, 21 years old on draft night. So many of these corners are 24, 23. He's a young player, 21 on draft night, and just you need somebody to match up with, the Lad McConkeys of the world, these really quick twitch kind of guys that run crossers over the middle of the field or try to beat you with a slant or try to get you with a slot fade. Parrish was the guy for me that it really stood out in that way. I was pleasantly surprised with the tape.
Dude, he's fun. From what I've watched, he's fun. I know Dane loves him too. I know he's one of Dane's guys as well. So it makes sense that you were able to get eyes on him and you really loved him. But he's somebody that I'm sure I already have on the list of guys that I'm watching for the nickel defender portion of the draft guide. So I will get to him. I will get to him very soon because I've only heard good things, and even from what I've watched, I really liked. All right, so 10 for me. I'll just go 10 to 6, and then we can have some conversations. 10 is Dorian Strong. We already talked about it. We already went over him. 9, I have Maxwell Hairston as well. So we're right along the same lines of Maxwell Hairston. I think we can have the conversation about him first. I've got Shavon Revel at number 8. I have Benjamin Morrison at 7. And then I have Azareye'h Thomas at number 6.
Okay.
So let's talk about Hairston first. Hairston is somebody who I am seeing a lot of people love. I brought up Dane a second ago. Like, I think Dane has Maxwell Hairston in his top 50, at least 75, but at least top 60, whatever.
I think he's been consistently pretty high on him. And I would
pretty high
think DJ is. I don't remember.
DJ also has him in his top 50. So these guys like Maxwell Hairston a lot.
The NFL probably likes him too.
Right. That's very true.
Not saying they go by the NFL rankings, but you know what I mean? There's some alignment typically.
Yeah, no, they're very plugged in dudes. It makes sense.
Right.
If everybody that they talk to in the NFL was like, yo, this guy can't play, like not that they're not doing their own evaluation, but it would kind of go into like, all right, maybe I'm a little too high on this player, you know? So even if
it happens.
I think he's good. I'm not at the point where I think everybody else is at with him.
No.
I just wasn't super blown away when I watched him. Again, like, it feels weird, like, starting it off like that. I think he's an NFL corner, but he reminds me, like, my comp that I had for him is Cam Smith from South Carolina. And, like, Cam still went in the second round. You know, like, the Miami Dolphins still drafted him in the second round. But a little bit of background for him. 3-star cornerback, West Bloomfield, Michigan. Played defensive back, played wide receiver. Won a state championship in 2020. Also ran track, also played basketball. So he's got that diverse background to him. Nickname is Mad Max, which you absolutely love to see. Also learned that he was on the high school choir when he was in high school. So a little bit of a hidden talent there. You know, when we get to the Hard Knocks episode and the rookie's got to sing, you know, Maxwell Hairston might have some pipes. You know, he might be it might be somebody who puts on a show there. 52nd percentile in height. Just over 5'11", 180 pounds. That's just 8th percentile. And that's just kind of like what we have listed there for him. I think he's a pretty decent wrap-up tackler for his size. Although I think that there are some strength concerns that comes with him.
Yeah.
I think he's a consistent pre- and post-snap communicator. Something that I love from the cornerback position. I think he understands run-fit duties. I think that he's got pretty good first step quickness and acceleration, but I think that the build is light. I think he can get pretty grabby when he gets in trouble. I don't think he has the best long speed for the position, and so I think that his play style and sort of like who he is as a corner, maybe mentality-wise, you would want him as like this press man corner. I have him listed as a zone corner, actually.
I was going to say, zone for me all the way.
Because I got strength concerns with him, and I got some long speed concerns if guys are able to stack him and get even with him. Right, so I don't think he's going to play a lot of man. The high interception total for him throughout his college career, not that he doesn't have some good plays on the ball, a lot of those were opportunistic. A lot of those were overthrows and terrible throws that he was just sort of there for. So you got to be a little bit contextual with a lot of the interceptions that he has there. I just think he was more limited than I thought he was going to be. And I think that he is a nice potential CB2, if not nice CB3 for you as a zone-heavy scheme. But he's not really somebody that I want to play a lot in press man coverage situations because I think he lacks a little bit of strength and overall top speed. So that was my thoughts on Hairston.
Yeah, it's I don't have pushback. I thought you would like him more than me, and it just sounds like you don't.
No.
I'll give you the synopsis because I think you broke down the details and they're pretty similar. Although I will add, I'm glad you brought up the note about interceptions. I was like, oh, sick. 2 pick sixes in 2023. And then you watch the Vanderbilt game in 2023 and you're like, oh.
Wait. One of them's good, isn't it?
One of them was cool.
One of them was cool. One of them he cuts off a
he made a great read and undercut it. Yeah. The other one is hilarious. But I mean, hey, I agree that he has ball skills. It's not just the interceptions, it's the passes broken up. He's got ball skills. Mm-hmm. But my synopsis with him was Hairston is a slender, playmaking outside corner that thrives in zone coverage. He'll get out-muscled by ball carriers and needs to ramp up the physicality to NFL standards in coverage, but his ball-hawking skills can flip the field at any moment. I saw some bigger wide receivers climb the ladder on him when he was in single coverage. Mm-hmm. He doesn't play the slot. He only has 10 slot snaps over the last 2 years. And I don't really think that'd be a great spot for him anyway. Like outside zone corner was what I looked at that can find the football. I think he reads movements really well, and he has a good idea when the quarterback wants to load up and throw, and he can kind of close on that. But I'm with you. He's really slender, and I don't think he's an elite athlete, and that's a scary, scary combo to be a cornerback in the NFL unless teams hide you a little bit, and that means you're a depth corner. So I was just lower on him. I ended up, once again, I ended up having him as cornerback 10, and kind of after talking through that, it's like, man, do I like Dorian Strong better than him? Why? Weird
Dude,
way for me.
They're close.
They're really close, and it's I'll be leaning on the combine a lot, honestly, weights and testing.
Yep, 100%. I think those dudes were neck and neck. To just to be transparent with everybody, there was only a half a point difference between Dorian Strong and Maxwell Hairston. So I almost had him right there. But, man, it seems like we're, really going after Hairston here. I love his feistiness. I love his competitiveness. And I think that's probably a big reason why people are willing to bet on him and for him to still be a good pro, even with some limitations there. But I agree with you. You look at single coverage assignments over the last 2 years for Maxwell Hairston, just a 52.4 coverage grade. It's just not really his bread and butter. You want him to be an off-zone type of a corner where he can keep the eyes on the quarterback and ball hunt a little bit there. So that's how I see him at number 9. Who did I have after that? Oh, I have Revel. I have Shavon Revel at 8. Where do you have him?
I had him a little higher. I had Revel at 6.
Okay, so you had him at 6.
I had him at 6 now. Obviously we're waiting on medicals with him.
I thought you said you had Jacob Parrish at 6.
I had Parrish at 7. Did I say it wrong? Oh no, I can't count. I have Revel at 5. I can't count.
Yeah, I was like, I'm about to Sherlock Holmes this shit.
You're right. I had Parrish at 6. I have Revel at 5.
About to break out my dog Marvel and be like, Watson, and he just looks over at me and we were about to get to the bottom of this. Okay, so you have Revel at 5. I have him at 8. I think that this is cornerback from ECU, coming off of an ACL tear, very physically gifted player.
Oh my goodness.
We don't have the official measurements for him yet because he didn't measure in at the Shrine Bowl, correct?
He did. He was at Shrine?
Well, he had accepted an invite to Shrine, but he didn't. Right, he didn't participate. No, he didn't participate in anything. I think he just did interviews, but I don't think he measured in. But ECU's got him listed at 6'3", 185 pounds. I'd believe both of those numbers. Sometimes, again, shout out Kansas, they're not Kansas Jayhawking us right now with the height. So I think that he's legit 6'3", 185.
I think so too.
So he played. So background for him: 3-star cornerback. Played both corner and wide receiver in high school. He had from the story that I read, he had some academic issues that held him from being a legit recruit. So this guy had, a lot of times when you see prospects who have academic issues, they're like a 0-star recruit. Like if these programs and these recruiting outlets know that you have academic issues, they're not really going to give you these high-star ratings because you're probably not going to qualify for a scholarship. So they're not going to put you up very high. They still made this dude a 3-star prospect, even with those academic issues, which held him from getting to the college that he wanted right out of school. He had to go to the JUCO level, Louisville College. He played there for 2 seasons, technically only 1 because one of them was canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Transfers over to ECU, played 9 games the first season there, started 12 games in 2023, was a standout stud because of his elite athleticism. And then this year, after 2.5 games, he tore his ACL, which sucks, obviously.
Yep.
There are reported sub 4.4 40-yard dash, 11-foot broad jump from this past summer before he got hurt. Just a total freak show athlete, extremely explosive. Top speed's going to be in the top percentile for the position, even for a position that flies. He has, beyond that though, sometimes you get these corners, and we'll talk about one in a little bit. Sometimes you get these corners that are just athletic, crazy explosive, great top speed, great quickness, but they're skinny, right? That's why they can fly. They don't have a lot of strength. Shavon Revel's got strength, man. he is like the total package type of an athlete where he can defend the run for you. He will bully you at the line of scrimmage out of press coverage. His recovery speed is so good that it's hilarious. Sometimes he looks like a cartoon because there are times. The issue with him, and the reason why I'm a little bit lower on him, despite singing his praise as an alien athlete, is because he does lack a lot of that technique. He lacks a lot.
Much.
He lacks a lot of nuance for the position, and that's why the Tyreek Woolen comp fits for me, because Woolen has had 1 year with the Seattle Seahawks where he has been elite. Like, it all came together for him. He was anticipating things very well. He was playing very confidently. But the rest of his time when he's been in Seattle, it's very hot and cold because he just doesn't have that nuance to him. So with Revel, there are plays where the ball will be snapped. The wide receiver, like, he will go to punch, sometimes even like with the wrong hand, and the wide receiver will knock it away very quickly, will stack him, and will get beyond, will start running up the sideline, and Revel's like, oh no. So he turns around and immediately throws on this rare level of jets to where he catches up with the wide receiver, again, like a cartoon, like faster than he thinks that he's supposed to. So he he outruns the wide receiver, and then he has to like slow down a couple of steps, like, oh wait, no, this is too easy for me. I gotta back it down a little bit and then stay even with you as you're running the 9 route. So his tape is a lot of hilarious stuff, but extremely gifted player. I think he's got good ball skills as well. He showcased that this past year. There's everything that you would want in this player. I'm just a little bit worried about how raw he is from a technical standpoint. So that's why I have him at number, where did I have him? 8? What was he, 8 for me? 8. Yes, I have him in number 8.
Even with the torn ACL in September, and that he's a little bit of an older prospect, and that his technique has a long ways to go, I think so highly of his physical gifts and demeanor on the field that I have him at 5. And honestly, I didn't want to have him at 5. I really wanted to have him at 4. It's just that you're always waiting a little bit on medical. The vibes I got, maybe not comp, but the vibes I got was Antonio Cromartie. It's just, there's not a lot of humans. Ironically, I had to look back at this. Cromartie also tore his ACL the year of his draft year. I didn't remember that. I mean, it was back in 2006. Wow. So I was like, that's really weird. But like, there's just not a lot of humans that are almost 6'3" that are this big, explosive, fast, have ball skills, and are tough as hell in every aspect of the game. Right. Yeah. Like are just strong in coverage against the run. You're right. One of the interceptions this year, he recovered and the ball basically hits him in the chest. Like, he didn't even realize it at first because he got in positioning, like incredible makeup positioning. He's still learning routes, route concepts, spacing, like you said, punch timing, like all of these things. And I really thought if he was healthy this year and got to develop, I thought he was going to be a top 15 pick. That's how highly I thought of his physical ability. And the ACL hurt him, but man, this dude, like, there's just not a lot of guys that can do this. And you take the gamble because if you hit on them, then you have one of a handful of humans that can play man coverage against anyone in the NFL. Anyone. DK Metcalf, like all these physical freaks. You can't send, unless it's Darrelle Revis, the greatest cover man of all time, you can't send a sub 6 foot guy out. The Buccaneer, great. You can't send a sub 6 foot corner out there. And Revis ran a 4.3, so that helps. And he was strong. But like, this is it. This is your shot at that, right? So there's risk with Revel. I totally get it. But man, there's also greatness if it works out. And like you said, Trevor, the film is just out of this world when there are corner film could be boring, like Dorian Strong we brought up. This is not boring because there are really low moments, and then there are high moments that no one else can do those things. You get your popcorn out when you're watching this, dude. Yeah. I regret to inform us that after doing the whole segment here on this dude, we are pronouncing his name
slightly incorrectly because I just listened to a voice clip while you were talking there from he himself.
Okay, good.
Shavon.
Shavon Revel.
We're forgetting
we
the
E. We weren't saying like Shavon, which is how it looks like it's spelled at least. Shavon Revel.
Shavon.
Gonna update the sheet right now.
Revel. Yes, I have pronunciations in my sheets as well. So, okay, I have him at... Look, I absolutely hear what you're saying, and there's a player who I'll name in a second who's actually... Should we just have the Darien Porter conversation now? I think it's probably correct. Because
yeah, it's time to have the Darien Porter conversation.
Because where did you have Darien Porter? Do you have him at 8?
I just read him. I had Porter at 8. So, and man, I feel like I'm sitting at the roulette table.
Why? What do you mean?
Because let's get into it. Why is this guy that has blazing speed, is massive, can make plays on the ball, used to play wide receiver, blocked 4 punts and a field goal. Why is this guy barely finally a starter his 6th year of college? What's going on? I need to get Matt Campbell on the phone and just say, what's going on?
I just want to talk to him. I need
to know. I need to know. And it's not like they don't like him. He was their 4th-team captain for, I think, half the games this year.
I was going to say, the thing about Porter is that, like, he gives a shit at all times.
Yes, he played his ass off on special teams before he ever got on the field to play defense.
So there's a little bit of a reason why. So, okay, we might be getting ahead of ourselves here. So it's funny because I have Revel at 8. You have him at 5. I have Darien Porter at 5. You have Revel at 8. So, or you have Porter at 8. So we are literally just flipping the players that we are gambling on who are sort of, brother, Darien Porter is an alien. I mean, the plays that this dude has are unbelievable. Go turn on. I ask anybody. Go turn on the Iowa game. There is a play that he makes in the 3rd quarter where Iowa has the ball, I think, right around their own 20-yard line. And they give it to Caleb Johnson, their star running back, who, by the way, not slow. He gets to the outside on the left side of the line of scrimmage. Darien Porter is playing left cornerback, so he is on the opposite side of the field. He engages with one of the wide receivers or tight ends, and as Caleb Johnson on the other side of the field finds the running lane and starts to streak up the sideline, Darien Porter gets off the block, flips his hips, and turns it on so fast that not only does he catch Caleb Johnson with like 20 to 25 yards to spare, he cuts him off. He doesn't just like, oh, let me shoestring tackle him, I'm going to barely get him. He cuts Caleb Johnson off. You want to talk about a guy who is about to just blow up the combine in a week. Darien Porter is one of those players. So a little bit of a background to him now that we sort of set up that he is sort of at a similar level of Shavon Revel when it comes to that explosiveness.
You said it like sarcastically. Like you put air quotes around his name.
Yeah.
Shavon
Revel.
If
that is your real name.
Yeah. Nice try, Shavon. Not fooling me. Shavon with an SH to start the name. Oh, that's the good stuff. Oh man. At least you agree. You really did say it like there was quotes.
No, you're
Shavon
totally right.
Revel.
If that is your real name. Incredible. Okay, so Darien Porter. So, Iowa State listed him at 6'4". He's not 6'4". He's not even 6'3". So a little bit of a Kansas Jayhawk there. But he is over 6'2". He's 6'2", 3 and 3/8 because he was at the Senior Bowl. So we got these official measurements. That's still 98th percentile for height for the position. He also has 94th percentile arm length. And when it comes to size, he's got a slender build to him, but that's just because he's so tall. He's still 197 pounds, which is 69th percentile. Nice for the position. And his background, you mentioned the fact that why has he been at Iowa State as long as he has, and why has it taken him this long to break out? This dude was a track star when he was in high school at Iowa. He was the Class 4A state champion in the 400 meter in both 2017 and 2019. He was the runner-up, so he almost three-peated in 2018. His time of a 4.699 in 2019 broke the Class A state record and was the first sub-4.7 400 meter in Iowa prep history. He also won the state title in the 800 meter sprint and the 200 meter sprint. Young man can scoot, as Benjamin Solak would say, friend of the show. So he played wide receiver in high school. So for the first 3 seasons that he was at Iowa State, he played wide receiver. He was listed as a wide receiver. He mainly just played special teams, but he was basically a wide receiver. It wasn't until 2022 they flip him over to cornerback. He still mainly just plays special teams for the next 2 years after that. He was basically a special teams dude for 5 straight seasons. And then his 6th year, they go, hey, your last year of eligibility, why don't you go out there and show us what you got? And he was fantastic. 88.8 coverage grade in the as an outside corner, 85.2 coverage grade when it comes to single coverage situations, 24.04 sync completion percentage, which it's a small sample size, but 99th percentile. Dude was insane. I mean, the movement skills that he has, the ability to play press man coverage, he lacks a little bit of strength to him. There's no doubt about it. And like Revel, the technique and the nuance isn't there because he just doesn't have a lot of starting experience. But with both of these players, it just, God don't make many like him. There's not many even comparisons that we really have for players like that. I did Tyreek Woolen for Revel. The one that I have for Darien Porter, it has to be Zion McCollum from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because McCollum's the same thing. McCollum was just over 6'2", just under 200 pounds at 199 pounds, had a 4.33 40-yard dash, 95th percentile, a 40-yard vertical jump, 88th percentile, a 132-inch broad jump, insane, 93rd percentile, but then even beyond that, a 98th percentile 3-cone and a 93 percentile agility. So not only is this guy track fast, he also had incredible agility and change of direction. That's also Darien Porter. So for the exact same reasons that you mentioned with Revel, I'm taking a chance on this dude, man.
Right.
Now,
yeah.
Revel is stronger than Porter is, but I think that you could certainly make it work with a player like this, and he can get stronger when he gets to the NFL level, especially the fact that he has only played corner as a starter for 1 season.
It's all about the gambles you take, and like these two are just dripping with traits.
Yeah.
I mean, they're dripping with traits where coaches are just going to love them. And, now Porter will be 24 on draft day. Revel will be 23. Like, they've been around college football for a bit. But, man, you look at the context of both of them, I think it really gives you hope that they could be really, really good with some development.
Did you have Benjamin Morrison at 7? Where'd you have him? 7, 8?
Yeah, I had him at 9.
Oh, okay. So you had him a little bit lower. All right. Talk to me about Morrison. I got him at 7. So what do you think about him?
All right. So Morrison obviously gets shut down this year with the hip injury after a couple games. 6 foot 186 is what he's listed at. He's another guy, a little lighter. Mm-hmm. Now that was season-ending hip surgery, which is pretty important for a corner. We've discussed on summer scouting, but I know everybody here necessarily wasn't here for that. All his siblings were college athletes, like 2 sisters in gymnastics. 1 sister plays volleyball. His brother played football at Arizona and San Diego State. His dad played safety in the NFL for 4 years. Like, this is just a very, very athletic family.
Yep.
I mean, Morrison was kind of an instant star almost at this program. Mm-hmm. I mean, 9 interceptions from 2022 to 2023. He got there, played well. He's played a little bit of the slot, but he obviously plays outside corner. I like his ability to open up his hips and run, and I think vertically, he really understands the timing of vertical routes. Like, he understands when he has to open up his... Yeah, he knows he reads eyes and hands and tracking. He really knows how to find the football on vertical routes. I thought the stop and start looked good. I think he wants to play really physical against routes and catch point situations. Like in man coverage, he wants to disrupt your route. He wants to play through your hands. He's phenomenal at playing through the hands. That's his number one quality to me, is that like when the ball is in the air, he is going to play, he's going to chop down or under, but he wants to get through the hands and make sure you do not have an easy time catching the ball. He's looked really good in single coverage in 2023. I know it was an 86.3 coverage grade in single coverage. 108 snaps in press that year. You do have to do a lot of the evaluating off of 2023 because he just didn't have much of a season this year as a whole. But I didn't think he was overly fluid and agile. I thought he has good vertical speed. I didn't see a top shelf fluid, agile, like let me anticipate the underneath routes. When he does, he's physical as hell. He's just got to be there. I think the balance when he tries to jam and the receiver knows he's going to jam and they fight through it, his balance wasn't very good. And that might just be from being a lighter guy.
He's light. Yeah, he is.
He's light. And he'll stumble or fall or just that transition starts to get messed up. When he tackles in the run game, runners fall forward against him almost every time. Every time. There's not knockback tackling. It's I'm going to fall forward for a yard, 2 yards, 3 yards. I like him a lot as a cover guy. Like, I don't think the agility was bad. I just thought it would be really good with how much he could open up and run down the field. I thought he was better at doing that than covering underneath, but he's so physical to find the football. So I like him in coverage, but there are some instances where I don't think he's good against ball carriers. And the bigger thing for me is just the hip, because he's athletic enough that that's a big part of his game in coverage to be sticky. And if you have hip surgery and you're not the same guy anymore, that's going to hurt you a lot in this process. So Morrison was somebody that I loved over summer, and he lost this season, and it's not an injury that I go, like he'll be back and ready to roll. It's an injury where I'm like, what do teams think with him long term?
Right. So I think that we will get more of a consensus when we get to the combine, and I think a lot of that news comes out. I have been told positive news on him that, like, yeah, he had the hip injury, but it should be something that, like, he's okay. He's okay moving forward. That it's not going to be something that, you know, was debilitating long term or anything like that. So I did hear good news on the hip front from him. I actually think he's pretty fluid as a player, but I will agree with you. He's not as stop and start sticky as I thought he would be. I think he's pretty fluid, like going from a shuffle technique to like flipping the hips and running up the field. I think he could do that pretty well, but I didn't think that he was super sticky. I think he's got long arms, though. I think he approaches the position very, very well. Notre Dame talks about like just how mature of a kid I mean, Sam Hartman had the quote where he was like, dude, Benjamin Morrison, I mean, like, he prepares like a pro. He's just such a mature kid. And Sam Hartman was there last year. That we're talking about a true sophomore then at that point that was garnering that sort of praise about his maturation and just how he approaches everything. And I think that it seems to be rave reviews with him of who he is as a person and a player and how he's going to be really able to whatever defense he kind of gets plopped into, be able to mold himself to whatever they need him to be. I like him the most as a man coverage corner, but I do get worried about the strength profile of things because the willingness to be physical, the willingness to get his hands up, the willingness to play run defense, that's all there.
No fear.
But there is some lack of strength. There is some, bullying that can happen with him against those bigger wide receivers. So you get a little bit worried in that regard. That's why I'm lower on him than what I used to be, even independent of the hip injury, because I more so think this is a player who could be a starter for you in a heavy man coverage system, but not really one who you would want to say, this is our CB1 every week, no matter what. It's probably somebody that you're hoping that you have a little bit more of a traitsy, stronger corner that you can play against wide receiver ones. And if he could be your cornerback too, I think you're going to have a really good duo at the NFL level. So
I agree. Yeah, I saw it the same exact way.
Who was the other guy that you had? Oh, Trey Amos.
Trey Amos.
You had Amos at 6, correct?
I believe so. I had Amos at 7. Parrish was 6.
Oh, yeah, Parrish was 6. I have Amos at 4. So
okay.
You talk to me about Trey Amos, sort of what you think of him. Or do you want me to do it because I'm higher on him?
You're higher on him. You'll take him, and I'll take Azareye'h Thomas.
Yes. All right. That's good. We can go back to back right there. That sounds good to me. I'm going to be honest with you, man. Somebody's going to have to tell me what Trey Amos doesn't do well. I think he's awesome. I don't think he's like an elite athlete, but 68th percentile in height, 61st percentile in weight, 49th percentile in hand size, 70th percentile in length when it comes to his arm length. So he's checking all the boxes that you would want from an outside corner in that regard. Played cornerback and quarterback, by the way, in high school. Also played basketball. He's also a track guy. Sprinted 100 meter, 200 meter, long jump. He was the Louisiana Class 2A state champion in the long jump, so he's got that explosiveness to him. Committed to Louisiana Lafayette at a high school. Played there for 3 seasons before transferring over to Alabama. Alabama, unfortunately, the room was a little bit crowded last year with Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold emerging from that group, and so he only started 1 game, played in all 14, but he only started 1 game at Alabama, transfers over to Ole Miss, and he becomes that full-time starter. So it is a little bit of a mystery to me why he wasn't a full-time starter for longer at the college level, but I love so much of what he brings to the game, man. I love the size. I think he's a good athlete in all facets, so I think that not just the long speed, but I think he's also got fluid movements to flip his hips. I think he can go downhill. I think the foot quickness is adequate and pretty good for the NFL level. Again, I'm not talking about an elite athlete here, but I think overall it's good. Like I describe all of these movements for Amos as good, and I like that. Very high forced incompletion rate, 97th percentile forced incompletion rate over the last 2 seasons, and he has had above a 20% forced incompletion rate over the last 3 seasons. I think he's got really good instincts to him. I like him most as a outside man coverage type of a cornerback, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't mind the zone reps either. I think he's pretty scheme versatile. And again, this goes to, you're going to kind of have to tell me, not like you, I'm not like calling you out. I'm saying like anybody out there, like somebody's got to tell me like why I shouldn't really love Trey Amos as just an overall like top 40 type of a player in this class. Likes to get his hands on receivers. He's comfortable being physical. He's got active hands at the catch point, the long arms. I think he's pretty good against the run as well. He's not the strongest dude out there, but I think he's decent against the run, and he's been a pretty solid wrap-up tackler. So maybe not a guy who wows you in certain categories. I think the forced incompletions and the ball skills should certainly wow you because he's great when the ball is arriving, and that's really important. But he does everything at such a pretty dang high level that it's hard for me to not see him as a CB2 in the NFL with the potential to be a CB1. I'm very curious to see how he tested the combine to see what his results are there.
Man, it's funny when you said there's all these things he's good at. I'm confused. My scouting report has a ton of lines for strengths, and I only wrote down 2 real weaknesses. To answer your question, like what is he not good at? I do have an answer to that. I don't think he comes to balance as a tackler well. That's the number one thing I saw. It's not that he can't tackle. It's that he doesn't come to balance to tackle. So when he misses a tackle, it's not that he had bad technique or form. Like it's just his balance breaking down that he doesn't set himself up right. And he lunges or throws an arm out there because he's not set up right. That's in the run game and after the catch. That was the biggest weakness for me, which is there's much worse things to be bad at as a corner. The thing you said that stuck out to me that I completely eye to eye with you. I think he's confident and experienced in any coverage. I didn't look at him as like, you got to play zone, you got to play man. Right. He's done it all. He's played over 2,400 coverage snaps at 3 programs now. So, and he's played at a pretty high level. I thought the interception against South Carolina where he broke off his assignment to make a play against another guy was, the instincts on that play were A+. Just an A+ interception, super battle tested. I mean, he was targeted 62 times this year, and he allowed 32 catches. But you look at LSU targeted him 9 times, And he only allowed 2 catches for 29 yards on those 9 targets. I think one other time he was beat where it should have been caught, but overall, like you're winning the batting average there.
Right.
So
right.
I like the arm, like the build. I thought he was quick against short routes. Thought he matched movements. I'm with you all the way, Trevor. Yeah,
I'm a huge fan.
He's the rich man's Dorian Strong, where like he's a little boring, but he's boring and like he's just really good. He goes out there and does his job, and the versatility of coverages. I would feel very comfortable playing Trey Amos as a rookie, and I think that's the highest compliment you can give a corner in a draft. That's the best way I could sum it up.
I'm with you 100%, man. I really am. His combine's going to be big for me. And by big, I mean if he tests better athletically than I think he's going to, we're going to pump those numbers up. I'm probably going to end up with him as like a top 30 player, maybe even a top 25 player.
He was only 7 for me because I don't think he's that fast, but we'll see.
Yeah.
That's a big slice of the pie.
Of course, right. And if he tests and he's a lot less athletic than I think, then all of a sudden you have to go to like, okay, well, there's the boring aspect of him. Well, is he boring because he's not athletic enough to really make the plays on the ball that you would want to at the NFL level? So conversation to be had here with Amos after the combine. We will see, but somebody whose film I really liked. Azareye'h Thomas is the next guy who I want to talk about here. You have him a little bit higher than I do. I've got him at 6, and I like this player. I think this is a very fun player. He's got very fun tape, easy to love, and easy to see him making the transition to the NFL, but you have him a little bit higher. Where'd you have Azareye'h Thomas? I got him at 6. Where'd you have him? And then talk to me.
3. Yeah, okay. I had him at 3. Azareye'h Thomas.
Wait a second. Do you have Travis Hunter in here?
Mm-hmm. Am I missing someone?
Wait, who do you have it 4? Have you said 4 yet?
No. It's
okay. All right.
You don't want to know.
I don't want to know yet.
Okay.
People got to keep listening to the show, man. It's how you get YouTube ad revenue.
That's a good point. You could listen to the Azareye'h Thomas breakdown instead. Azareye'h Thomas, Florida State. This year, 1 interception, broke up 10 passes in 2023, forced the fumble. I love the build. Like, the build is how you want a corner to look. Mm-hmm. Tall, long. I need to double check his Senior Bowl measurements on the exact arm length.
He's 6'1.5" in height, 68th percentile. He had 32.5-inch arms, 85th percentile.
This is what you want a corner.
Dude's got long arms.
This is what you want your outside corners to look like.
And he's got huge hands. You see this?
No.
10 1/8-inch hands?
Which makes it a large corner.
That's 97th percentile, which makes so much sense because when he punches you in press, these dudes move. Like he's got... Anyways, go ahead.
20 years old on draft night. So he's this big and strong, and he's 20 on draft night. Where a lot of these other guys are 3 to 4 years older than him.
Gonna be having a pink lemonade on draft night to celebrate.
Good for him. Played over 300 coverage snaps in man coverage the last 2 seasons. Over 300. Fearless. And he looked really good. Looked comfortable. Mm-hmm. His lack of fear to just blow up routes and press. And he's got long arms and he's got long stride length. So he's got the long arms to disrupt, but he's also got stride length to run, to make up some ground or take over some more ground. That doesn't mean he's really fast, but his speed might look different than someone with shorter strides. Trust his legs. One of the most important things from a mental aspect for a corner, do you trust your legs? Because that's going to trickle affect how you play every single down. If you don't trust your legs, are your coaches not going to trust you as much in man coverage? Can you play single coverage? Can you go hit the ball? Or are you scared of making a mistake? This guy, maybe he's just too young to know it won't hurt him, but he trusts his lower half to recover or get him out of bad situations. I love when the long arms chop over on slant routes. When somebody tries to run a slant on him, his arms are so long and so physical that he just chops right over the top and blows it up. I think the timing and placement of the jam is a work in progress. He's a young corner. There's times where it's like, the jam was a little late, or, he kind of went outside shoulder too much, like he missed, it didn't disrupt the way he could. I know he could do it because there's a lot of good reps where he really throws the receiver off balance, but it's still just the consistency. I think down the field, it's funny to me. He does grab sometimes down the field for a guy that I think trusts his legs, but it's just like it's a natural resort. He doesn't grab over the top where it's DPI. He kind of will just use his hands around the waist. I think he's almost setting up his hands to play the ball, but he grabs the body or puts his arm around the body, and you just got, like, the NFL, it drives me insane. I think it's one of the worst aspects of the NFL today. They just don't let you do anything down the field anymore. It's a different sport now where you're not necessarily interfering with the guy's route, and receivers play with use their body and hands as well against corners. They just don't allow it in the NFL anymore, so you have to evaluate it. Like, you have to evaluate by the rule book, even though I hate it. But my synopsis on him, long, outside, man-cover corner that has stacked 2 really solid years of tape, and he'll be just 20 years old on draft night. While Thomas hasn't had the takeaways you'd hope for, he disrupts routes and competes at the catch point consistently.
Yeah, totally does. 99th percentile forcing completion player, despite starting and playing a ton of games over the last couple of seasons. And so he's got a lot of reps, a lot of opportunity to give up those passes and not have those forcing completions, and yet he has been very productive at doing so. Single coverage grade 77.4 over the last 2 years, so a little bit lower, but I think that goes into some of my weaknesses that I have with him, and that's that even though he trusts his feet and his legs, I would agree with sort of that assessment. I don't think he's got like rare speed, rare stop and start ability. I think right now I have him with a second round grade, but he is right there on the cusp of like having that late first, early second round grade for me. I do think that he is a pretty good player. You know who he reminded me of? You remember Bryce Hall when he was at Virginia before he was coming out? Like, yes, and he went through all those injuries. Like, I know that Bryce also played a lot of cover 3, so this is a little different, but the length, the athlete they were, the big hand size, like the ball skills ability, like he reminded me of a Bryce Hall in that way before he got injured, and he was one hell of a player at Virginia, and I think that Azareye'h Thomas is a pretty dang good player as well. So I gave him a second round grade, have him 6th on my outside cornerback rankings. Before we get to the big reveal of who you have at number 4 and not number 3. Question for everybody out there: what's your child's success look like for you? If you're a parent out there, maybe it's your child, traveling a lot. Maybe it's a certain job that they're very passionate about. Maybe it's just a very comfortable lifestyle, no matter what that looks like. Well, you can help them achieve that with the Kids Investment Account from Fabric by Gerber Life. By making a contribution to your child's future today, you can help give them the means to pursue whatever dreams they have, both big and small. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a Kids Investment Account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. The whole thing is online, very easy to set up. Take you just as little as 5 minutes, and then you manage everything right from your phone. Super simple. Starts with just $20, no contribution limits, tax advantages, SIPC insured up to $500,000. There's no commission fees involved, just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. Funds can be used for basically everything. When they're kids, it's things like music classes, sporting events, camps, tutors, whatever. And then where they're a little bit older, you can help them with that first house, that first car, setting them up for a job, whatever it is. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family by starting investing in your child's future today at meetfabric.com/stock exchange, meetfabric.com/stock exchange, MEET fabric.com/stock exchange. Portfolios are managed by Port Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right, who you got it for?
The MEAT Fabric player of the show.
Okay, all right.
No,
yeah.
Who? Maybe.
Mason Graham.
Yes,
so you got Mason Graham at outside corner number 4.
Man, is his jam good. The recovery speed, I don't know.
Short arms, but man, he'll jolt you right back at the line of scrimmage.
My corner 4 is Jahdae Barron from Texas.
Okay. All right.
Who I'm assuming you didn't do for this show, or you did?
Oh, he's in here.
Oh, he's corner 1, huh? Okay. All right, Jahdae Barron.
He's in here. You better believe it.
I bet he's number 2 for you. You love him. You've always loved him.
This is my boy.
Give you your props. You were on Jahdae Barron before it was cool to talk about Jahdae Barron.
I was, why the hell did Jahdae Barron not declare last year before he even played outside corner? And then he played outside corner this past year, and it ended up being a great decision for him because he was probably a fringe first round, second round pick last year as like a slot defender / safety. And now I genuinely think that Jahdae Barron should be picked somewhere within the top 20. And honestly, if I'm being honest with you, like I'd pick Jahdae Barron in the top 12, top 10. I think he's that good. I think he's awesome. So,
well,
you want to talk about him or me? Which one?
No, I think you should talk about him. Where do you have him?
So he is corner 2 for me. He is
okay.
CB2.
So I'll talk about Will Johnson.
Okay. All right. So there we go. I'm assuming that you have Will at CB2.
I have Will at 2. I mean, I could rip through him here. I already talked about.
We already started.
My rankings are out.
What?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? No. Okay. So that's a good point. I didn't think about how your rankings were already out. I didn't even put that together.
Anyone with literally a quarter of a brain can figure out my rankings now. Shavon Revel, he's number 5. Jahdae Barron's number 4. Azareye'h Thomas was 3. Will Johnson 2. And, of course, Travis Hunter at 1, who we'll share both our opinions on. But you talk about Barron, I'll talk about Will Johnson, and we'll talk about the top corner in the draft.
Oh, man, I love Jahdae Barron. He's listed at 5'11". Very curious as to see what all of his official measurements are because this is somebody who used to play safety, used to play in the slot, now plays outside corner. So you don't exactly get a great feel for how he is built, but we'll get an answer for that when he's at the combine. He's a redshirt senior, and so it's hard to say like, man, how are you drafting a redshirt senior in the top 10, top 12? Well, obviously the journey that I sort of explained to you guys gets you sort of to that point of why that's the case. He was a 4-star cornerback coming out of Austin, Texas, so he stayed home when he was committed to the Longhorns. He played wide receiver and he played defense back. He also played punt returner when he was in high school. This is also a track dude, 100-meter and 200-meter dashes, ran the 100-meter at a 10.95, so not like crazy alien blazing fast, but still sub-11, so that's pretty good. He's played 41 games over the course of his 5 years, and he's had 23 starts. This is somebody who I'll just let. So this is a quote from Steve Sarkisian, and this is last year. Okay, I do not think that this guy gets nearly enough credit for the player that he is for our team. He's extremely impactful. He's got one of the highest football IQs on our team. It always feels like he's at the right spot at the right time, and we ask a lot of them. And I think that last part, that last prepositional phrase, well, I actually don't think that's a prepositional phrase. The last part of that sentence. It means a lot because they do, man. This guy's plate was full. He played free safety and strong safety. Then he played as their primary nickel defender, their apex defender, who they asked to play on the line of scrimmage in the slot and off coverage in the slot. And then this year they said, hey, go play out wide. And he honestly, like his tape at out wide corner for this being the first year of him playing it was so damn good. Now, he's not a press man type of a corner. He's a zone coverage corner that you're going to want in either a quarters or a cover 3 heavy system where he can play off the line of scrimmage, he can play in a shuffle technique, and he can keep his eyes on the quarterback. But if he does that, the IQ that he has for the position is so high, and the versatility that he has to be able to play any sort of spot at defensive back for you is so great. Love the eyes and anticipation no matter where he is lined up. Such a great feel for zone coverage. The technique and spacing is excellent. Being able to blur that line for the quarterback of saying like, oh, okay, he's out of place. And then for a split second you go, damn, or is he that fast? Is he gonna close on that wide receiver? Is he gonna recover that well? He just blends that. So you could tell that he puts quarterbacks in the walls of Jericho mentally when they are staring at his side of the field because of the way that he plays in his technique and off coverage, which I absolutely love. He's got the power and strength from his safety and slot background to work through blocks and make sound tackles at the line of scrimmage when he's closing downhill as well. Very experienced and comfortable playing from the linebacker level, which you can sort of like, throw a curveball in there and have him outside one play and then kind of have him inside of the next. I think his hips are a little bit slower to flip, and I think that there's a reason why he was playing safety and nickel corner before he played on the outside. So I think that there's some limitations there. He's a little uncomfortable when his back is to the ball, but that's to be expected with him being a one-year starter and a one-year player as an outside cornerback. I thought it got better as the year went on. He gets a little handsy in those double move situations because he doesn't anticipate as well that he could because of that lack of experience. And I think the top speed is good, but I don't think that it's elite. So that's all of those reasons are why I think he is much more of a zone-heavy scheme cornerback than he is a man cornerback. But if you play this guy in a zone-heavy scheme, I think he can be excellent for you. I think that he could do so much for your defense. He has such a high football IQ, and I think that he could be a CB1 at the next level. That's my dude.
I love it. I think the things that he's so good at that not every corner is good at is what really makes him a top tier football player, right? Like he just sees things really well, the ability to make plays on ball carriers. My number one question, and I still have him at 4, which is really, really high, is I am a little lukewarm at best on him on an island in man coverage. Like if he's that kind of different. Like, and that's the most important thing to me at the position. But I also had Cooper DeJean as my number 1 corner in last year's draft because I thought he, in his role, was such a special difference maker that I didn't care. So there's no reason to think Barron can't be a guy that, it's not that he can't play man coverage. Just talking about, can you be elite in man coverage? There's like, he could do so much for you on the back end. I almost didn't even know how to evaluate him specifically and just was like, well, just list all the things he could do because he could play the slot. He showed this year. It looked great playing outside corner when a lot of people were like, is this going to work over summer? Like, is this, and he looked really good. And he could honestly play safety for you if you need him to play safety for you. So, who
he reminds me of, who my comp is for him? Stephon Gilmore. How Stephon Gilmore won at that position just between the ears. How smart he was. His
eyes, yeah, and instincts were phenomenal.
And the Patriots put him in man coverage plenty as well. But like, I think you could put Barron in man coverage. But I went back and because I thought to myself that he really reminded me of Stephon Gilmore, and I went back and I watched a bunch of Stephon Gilmore stuff, and a lot of his best plays came when he was allowed to be off the line of scrimmage and read quarterbacks and wide receivers. And I think that similarly, maybe it's a little bit more of like late stage of his career, Stephon Gilmore, but just how both of these guys have such a high football IQ to make an impact. Like that was somebody who he reminded me of the play of Stephon Gilmore. And honestly, his wins above replacement metric for this past year, nuts. 0.88. That's higher than Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter played both ways. It's crazy how big of an impact Jahdae Barron had as a one-year starter on the outside. And if that's the baseline that we got moving forward, I think we got a damn good football player. So talk to us about Will Johnson now.
All right, so Will Johnson, not the year he had hoped for. I mean, still a player that I think is over 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. So the size here is what you want. Mm-hmm. Now, with Johnson, like this season, when he was playing, he was hurt. And there was also times where he didn't get to play in big games, like the Ohio State game, which matters a lot. I'm going to pull up all his metrics here in just a second. But he has such good instincts and awareness at the position to really turn the game. And I mean, like really jump a route, grab the ball, and go the other way, where I'm talking it's different level of tier. Now, what he runs is going to matter a lot because there are questions like how fast is he, and he just needs to pass a threshold and be adequate. But you watch the USC game this year, and that's where it kind of all went downhill after that. He clearly was hurt. He missed the Minnesota game after that. He played through some stuff in the next 2 games, and then he basically missed the rest of the season. He did miss the rest of the season. So this was almost a lost year for him, honestly, at times. And even when you watch the game against Fresno State to open up the year, because a lot of people remember that game for the pick 6 at the end of the game, but he was beat a couple times in single coverage, where he just didn't look as fast as you would hope he would be, and he wasn't in position to make a play on the ball. When everything is in front of Will Johnson, it's 10 out of 10 level stuff. How he runs will kind of answer the question of what is this guy going to look like in single man coverage at the next level, because that's how you end up being he's projected to be a top 15 pick, and that's really, really important. And honestly, this year, the very small sample size of it, there was some tough moments, specifically in that Fresno game. I thought overall in 2023, there weren't a lot of tough moments. It was near dominant film. He was one of the best players in the draft coming into the season. But you just look at the actual traits that he has. I think he's explosive, fluid movement. The agility and the hips are just everything you'd want in a corner. Like his transitions and the way he could flip his hips and the way he can kind of get sideline to sideline with those underneath routes. Right, that's the thing. This isn't somebody that's 5'9", 190 doing it. This is somebody that has number one outside corner size. And we talked about this. You turn on that 2023 tape when he was healthy. It was a 30.9 passer rating when quarterbacks targeted him. Like there was nothing there. He gave you literally nothing. I think the tackling after the catch is very, very good. And I think that's a huge problem with a lot of these guys. He knows how to wrap up, and the agility is so good, and the balance is so good where he positions himself the right way to limit any kind of yards after the catch. But the anticipation is what makes him a round one player. And Bruce Feldman has said, like, he's run a 6.57 3-cone. So if you need any more reason to believe the agility is elite, the testing for it will be elite. How the long speed is, that's going to kind of be a big thing for how teams attack him down the field. Because I do think there might be some vulnerability there that separates him from being a top 10 pick, like a legit top 10 pick, and he needs to be healthy. I just think he was really hurt this year, and it didn't match up to the 2023 tape that was always going to be hard to match, but there's a reason this guy was a 5-star recruit out of Detroit, Michigan. I mean, there is some phenomenal tape. This is a really, really good player that has all the traits that you want. We just need to see if the long speed is there, but the build and agility is as good as it gets. And I'm still a believer that he could be a big-time difference maker.
I love what you said about, when he keeps things in front of him, he's just such an elite defender. And I agree. I went into this exercise having him ranked or listed with the man coverage corners because I thought that that's what I was going to want him to be. And the more I watched, the more I was like, he's a zone corner. Like he is a cover 3 quarters type of a cornerback where if you let him stay off the line of scrimmage a little bit and you let him trigger downhill, like this dude will, the pick sixes speak for themselves. The way that he could put his foot on the ground and anticipate and go after the ball and turn it into a touchdown for the defense. Like that sort of speaks to itself of how good of a football player he is. I liked him more in zone coverage situations than I did man coverage situations. If he runs really well in Indianapolis, which I know he's going to test great in the agility drills, but if he could show you that he's got that explosiveness and the long speed to him, then I think you really just start to say, hey, I'm throwing out 2024. Like I'm throwing it out because he didn't look like the same player. You mentioned he's got the strength and he's got the body frame to be able to tackle. The tackling was sloppy in 2024. He didn't hold up super well against single coverage situations in 2024. That speed kind of got exposed for him, even at the beginning part of the season when he was out there. And so it's like, man, were you just having a national championship hangover? Did you just say, hey, we won a natty last year and we're going to suck this year?
I'm a top 5 pick.
I mean, remember Derek Stingley? Derek Stingley won a national championship as a true freshman starter at LSU. And the next 2 years, he was like, well, I can't go to the NFL until after my junior season. And so, I mean, his tape was kind of mediocre I don't want to say mediocre. That's insulting. But like,
it wasn't the same guy. It was
not the same guy. And I think that is realistic to believe that is possible for players because you look at Stingley now, and he's one of the best corners in the NFL. And we saw it as a true freshman at LSU, and then he kind of just... it felt like he didn't have his foot on the gas those last 2 years. So I wonder if with the injury and the national championship hangover, I wonder if that's it. If he tests well, I think that you just kind of got to go, hey, we're going to trust 2023. So I sort of changed my pro comp for him. I initially had Patrick Surtain the second because they're built very similarly and they're both very, very talented players. But with me watching his full film and coming away with it and saying, like, I like you better in zone coverage situations. I mean, Pat Surtain's a press man corner. Pat Surtain's been playing press man basically since middle school, right? When he was at Alabama, what he does with the Denver Broncos. And not that he can't play zone coverage, but he gives you much more confidence when you're playing press man. And so I feel as though Darius Slay is a better comp for Will Johnson now is these guys who a little bit more off coverage type of players, a little bit more zone coverage. Now, Darius Slay will play man coverage against you. He has it at different points in his career, but he's more of a guy that I think wins with savviness and ball skills now and is a taller, longer corner. So I think that's a better comp for him with Will Johnson. But I do see him pretty similarly to the way that you do, even though I have him ranked at 3. And you got him ranked at 2. Which brings us to our number 1 player, the only one that we have left on this list. Both of our number 1 CBs in this class. And that's Travis Hunter from Colorado. Connor, I'm going to be honest with you. We went through wide receivers, and I had a first-round grade on Travis Hunter as a wide receiver. And I went, oh no. Am I going to have to admit that Connor was right? Am I going to have to admit that Travis Hunter is actually a better wide receiver than he is a cornerback, and I actually think that he should play wide receiver after puffing out my chest saying all that stuff about corner? And then I watched him at corner. And guess what?
I wasn't wrong.
I gave him a first-round grade at corner. And the movement is back on, baby. So, yeah, look, Hunter, it's hard to find things that haven't already been said about the junior Heisman Trophy winner who's been an absolute phenom, the number 1 recruit in the 2022 recruiting class who has absolutely lived up to the billing in every way, shape, or form. 6'1", 185 pounds. He's got the long arms to him. At the cornerback position, again, this is somebody who, with his build, I was like, oh, he's going to be a man coverage corner. No, he's a zone coverage corner. If you take him away from those situations where he can kind of get bullied a little bit at the line of scrimmage, not that he can't play cat man coverage, he can, but like he's a little bit more slender and bigger, more powerful NFL wide receivers like DK Metcalf, Nico Collins, right? Like Mike Evans, like these guys are going to be able to bully him a little bit off of the line of scrimmage. But when you let Travis Hunter play off the line and watch the ball and the quarterback,
oh yeah,
this dude, it's so hard to not get carried away with comps and just think that he's just going to be a multi-all-pro at the NFL level. The ball skills are basically the best ball skills that you're ever going to see of a cornerback that you scout because of what he brings as a wide receiver. The fluidity, the length, I mean, just the way that he reads the field. Travis Hunter, I want to say this too. Travis Hunter does not get enough credit for being as smart as he is.
Yeah.
People think he is just like, oh, just this super gifted athlete, plays both sides of the ball. This dude, and the reason why I have him number 1 overall in this class, you do as well as we went over the big board episode, he's one of the best football players, like processors. He's so instinctual.
I think he's a 4.0 student, by the way.
He is.
Yeah, like I think he legitimately has had a 4.0 GPA multiple semesters.
He would not be
Bruce
able.
Feldman said at least once. Yeah.
He would not be able to play both sides of the ball the way that he does if he wasn't a very intelligent football player.
Right.
And I think that is just something that goes so underrated about the many things that we can marvel at about Travis Hunter. But, dude, the mold that he is. So I was on Rich Eisen's show earlier today, humble brag. And he asked me, he was asking me about comps.
With the big dog himself.
With the big dog himself, yes. And he was asking me about comps. And he was like, who do you even comp Travis Hunter to? And I saw Jordan Reed, friend of the show, ESPN. I saw him say this early on in the process, and I love it, and I haven't gone away from it. So kudos to him. Champ Bailey. Champ Bailey played wide receiver and corner when he was at Georgia. And he goes to the NFL, and he starts just at corner, and we saw what Champ Bailey could become. I genuinely think that's what Travis Hunter could become. He is that gifted of a football player. I love this dude. I did not think that I was going to come away from this exercise with Travis Hunter as CB1, and I am very confident in doing so.
It's just wild to think Champ Bailey ran in the 4.2s. Like, there's just
nuts, man.
Just talk about unappreciated aliens. Interesting decision to trade 25-year-old Champ Bailey, but hey.
But dude, it was for Clinton Portis straight up, which is nuts. That was a wild trade, man.
It's an insane trade.
Bro, he was a 12-time Pro Bowler.
I was going to say, he was still a Pro Bowler at age 34.
He must have got hurt that 2008 season, right? Yeah. He missed time in the 2008 season, so that's the only reason why he wasn't a 13-time consecutive Pro Bowler.
He basically had like an apartment that he owned just for the Pro Bowl.
For 13 years, this guy was just like, yeah, time to vote for the Pro Bowl. Okay, we'll start with Champ Bailey, and now let's move on to the rest of the list.
Let's make the rest of the roster. No, I mean, with Travis, it's just, you know what's funny to me still is that he is still not even fully polished at the position, and he's this good. Like, you watch, I always like going through the coverage grading system and look at some, you know, bad games and look at like the single coverage reps on those games. And you watch him against BYU at the end of the year, which is the bowl game. But there's still times where he's playing off the guy and he goes to press him like 7 yards down the field or maybe just grab. And it's a bad rep. But he's going to work through those things with coaching because I thought over summer he was so raw at corner. You know, you said it at the top. I loved him at wide receiver. I was like, yeah, all the athleticism's there. I don't think he's one of the top corners in this draft class yet.
Right.
This year, he got so much better, and he's still not even where he's eventually going to be. That's what's insane about Travis Hunter is like trajectory-wise, he still has things to clean up from a technique and timing standpoint, but he's so twitchy and gifted and long and fast, and like you said, Trevor, the awareness and instincts and smarts that he's got legitimate upside. He's already a great prospect, but he has upside to be incredible. And that's so enticing to me. Like, there's some really good prospects in this draft, great prospects in this draft, that don't really have upside like that. Like Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty has been an amazing player for 2 years. And he will be the same player in the NFL. But Travis Hunter might not be the same player in the NFL. He might be better. Because there are still technique aspects of the game where he's just the best athlete out there covering guys and finding the football. But he did take a big strides this year, especially at outside corner. I thought just his transitions looked better. There's a comfort level. You said it, like when he gets the privilege to play in zone, it's like being at the playground for him. But I still think he's got legitimate man coverage skills because of the kind of athlete he is with the size, and I think he'll get stronger. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think he's the best player in the draft, and I think part of that is just how much he's developed at corner.
You know, there's a little bit of a lack of weight concern that you have with him, but like, to be honest with you, man, you know, when I'm doing my film grading and sort of like categorical like grades that I have that, you know, spit out the numerical grade that turns into a round grade and all that stuff throughout the process, I obviously have to ding him on, you know, a little bit of a lack of awareness, some lack of technique. Like, I have to do that. If Travis Hunter, let's just say he was at Colorado, nothing against Jackson State, I mean, I guess you could say this about Jackson State as well. If he just played corner for 3 straight seasons, I genuinely think he'd be the highest prospect I've ever graded. I think that highly of him and the potential that he has and how much he has improved at both spots while playing full-time at both spots. I really do think that he probably would have been the highest graded prospect that I've ever had. So,
do you think he's going to make a firm decision, or you think this is just going to go all the way into training camp? Like, is this a draft process thing where he's like, I'll show you I could do both and be the number 1 pick? Is this just who he wants to be?
So here's the thing. I don't think he's going to declare a position, because why would you?
There's no reason to.
If you go to every single team and you tell them, I will start for you on both sides of the ball and I'll be a Pro Bowler on both sides of the ball, every team in the NFL will go, all right, sick. And at that point, the Titans go, yeah, we could probably take you number 1. So he wants to go to number 1. There was somebody who, shout out to PFF Discord. If you guys aren't in the PFF Discord, we're doing a lot of really fun draft stuff over there. Somebody asked me a question last night because we were doing a little Q&A. They were like, has anybody brought up the fact that Travis Hunter playing both sides of the ball could potentially be a multiplied negative? Because if he's a starter for you at wide receiver and he's a starter for you at corner, and if he has a slender build and he gets hurt, you just lost 2 starters on each side of the ball. I had never thought of that before.
No, it's an amazing point. And I'll be floored if a team does this.
No. It wouldn't make. Oh wait, are you saying play him on both sides or
like full time?
Oh, okay.
Like
okay.
you're our number one receiver and you're our number one corner, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, I
don't
thought
think it'll happen. I think he will want it to happen. I don't know if an NFL team, they'll rely on their sports science department to say like, hey, do you think this is possible, or is this guy just going to be burnt out every year and hurt?
Yeah, they're gonna rely on John Brinkus to come in with sports science and make the determination there. Shout out one of the most obscure sports shows that every single football fan who's around our age remembers.
Everyone knows it. You watch it when you're home from school over summers all the time, or just in general. It really was.
I met John Brinkus once. He was cool.
Really?
Cool. Yeah.
We did a little career he's probably had.
We did like a collab with him for the draft show when I was at TDN in 2021. Hey, he was cool.
What is he?
We went
up
to his house.
Right now?
It was dope. He's doing his own thing. He's got like I think he's still got like Brinks TV. Like he's kind of still just like.
Oh yeah. He's got his own production company.
Yeah, shout out John Brinkus. So there you go. We would love to hear from you guys as well. Actually, should we recap it? We should recap it.
Yes.
Give me 12-1, Connor. Who's your 12-1?
All right, the rankings for the corner show today. Number 12, Quincy Riley, Louisville. Number 11, Dorian Strong, Virginia Tech. Number 10, Maxwell Hairston, Kentucky. 9, Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame. Number 8, Darien Porter, Iowa State. Number 7, Trey Amos, Ole Miss. Number 6, Jacob Parrish, Kansas State. Number 5, Shavon. Revel.
Yes.
Shavon Revel. ECU.
In
Number
theory.
4, Jahdae Barron, Texas. 3, Azareye'h Thomas, Florida State. 2, Will Johnson, Michigan. Number 1, Travis Hunter, Colorado.
Number 12 for me was Alexander from LSU. 11, Nohl Williams from Cal. 10, Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech. 9, Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. 8 was Shavon Revel from ECU. 7, Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. 6, Azareye'h Thomas from Florida State. 5, Darien Porter from Iowa State. 4 was Trey Amos from Ole Miss. 3, Will Johnson from Michigan. 2, Jahdae Barron from Texas. And number 1, Travis Hunter. We would love to hear from you guys as well. We would love to hear your takes on our takes, or if you just got takes on the cornerback class in general. This was just outside corners for me, so I haven't quite gotten to the nickel defenders. We'll have another episode or do something on nickel defenders, maybe when we get to just the overall big board and we're talking about where we have guys ranked. I think that we could do that as well. If you have any questions on any of these other corners that we didn't get to today, shout them out. If you got, Kansas guys, if you're going to yell at us for not having Melo Dotson and Kobe Bryant in here, we would love to hear from you. Give us a little scouting report. We always love that stuff. Best way to do that, youtube.com/@NFL Stock Exchange. If you are audio only, at Tampa Bay Trey, at Connor J. Rogers on Instagram and Twitter. You can also follow the show at NFLSE Show on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. So you can follow the show and support the show. We love you guys. We'd appreciate that. Next time you hear from us, we'll be in Indy. It'll be Combine Week, brother.
That's right.
Excited for it.
We're going to be there a long time. It's going to be fun.
We are going to be, yeah. Too long, some would say.
Some would say you should never be there that long, but we're going to try it.
We're going to put our bodies to the test to see how long we can last at the Indianapolis Combine here. We'll have a couple of episodes for you still in the Combine. I don't know if there'll be like Combine preview episodes or something. We'll kind of come up with whatever topic we feel like you guys want to hear the most. But we will have a couple of episodes coming from Indianapolis. Then, Connor, anything else before we get out of here?
Nope, that sums it up, man. Excited to get rolling back on the road.
We're recording this on Thursday. I know it's not releasing until Friday, but USA, baby!
Let's go.
We're taking it tonight.
Boy, we're going to look real stupid if they don't.
Nah, I got confidence. I got all the confidence in the world. It's not like Canada's the powerhouse. We're the powerhouse now. God, this is getting worse. I'm digging the hole even worse. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. For Connor Rogers, I'm Trevor Sikkema. We'll see you guys next time.